I think when you love something so much and when you're touched and moved by something like as deeply as I was by this book, it just kind of comes naturally. Yeah. It comes from the heart, hits the heart. And that's kind of what kept me going throughout this whole process, is just knowing that we're working on something special that has the potential to impact millions of lives.
Hi, besties. So Blake Lively thinks she has the perfect case, and she is in the middle of discovery. She's going through all sorts of motions to compel, and it obviously for many looks like she's winning because the judge keeps granting all of these motions. But be hopeful, my friends, because judges, specifically in cases of employment feuds and discrimination, and where the plaintiff may be a possible victim, they do not like to appear as though they're impeding in that person's ability to prove their case. And so, on the face, they are allowing her to get the discovery she seeks, but that doesn't mean that the discovery she seeks or that he's granting her to have means that she's going to get the evidence that she needs. All right. And what really matters is if her case can hold up under the rule of law, under a motion to dismiss, a summary judgment, or even going to a jury trial, right? And she thought and she thinks she has the perfect case, right? She's claiming she was harassed and retaliated against, and a smear campaign was designed to ruin her reputation. I think what Blake failed to consider was Jed Wallace, because Jed Wallace and his attorneys are being masterful in how they are navigating their motion to dismiss and how they are systematically dismantling her entire case against him and even poking holes in the strength of her case against everyone else. Jed Wallace is not a Hollywood mogul. He was not a part of the film. He is not her employer. He was a PR agent consultant that was hired, and he's right now in federal court in New York. And he is going line by line, allegation by allegation, and he is dismantling her case. And they're not doing it with theatrics, they're doing it with cold legal precision. His lawyers wrote this in their latest reply. Her 2-paragraph attempt in a third part her case, why her retaliation theory really doesn't hold water, and why her reliance on California law is fatal in a New York courtroom, and why even her own sworn testimony undermines her story. And I'm going to be reading you the quotes straight from his court filings, and so you can see how his defense is actually dismantling her case in real time. So what Blake is alleging against Mr. Wallace is that she says that Wallace and others launched a retaliation campaign. That's her phrase. And she accuses them of spreading stories that painted her as rude, that marked her film marketing as tone deaf, and that suggested she didn't take domestic violence seriously in promoting her project. She claims this wasn't ordinary criticism. She's trying to tie organic backlash as it was a deliberate sabotage of her to discredit and bury her reputationally. Her theory is that Wallace and his co-defendants wanted to destroy her credibility before she ever accused Justin Baldoni of harassment publicly. The idea was that to make her unbelievable in advance, to silence her before she spoke. It's dramatic, but the catch here is that retaliation laws aren't built for hypotheticals. They're built on actual actionable actions that happen in adverse employment impacts to Blake. And she doesn't show any adverse employment actions that were taken against her. And Wallace's brief, points out her entire claim flows from reputational injury. And then he cites Newt's. She's calling it retaliation, but he's saying if she's claiming it's an injury to her reputation, it's defamation. And he says throughout her entire response to him, she can't get around his claim of the defamation exception. So what is the defamation exception? This is where her case actually will start to fall apart, because he invokes what's known as the defamation exception. And in New York, how it works is if your case is really about reputational harm, then it belongs in defamation law. And you can't repackage it under other legal labels to avoid stricter rules around defamation, like the short statute of limitations, the requirement to identify specific false statements, and for